Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. Today is July 6th, 2020. We have a really important show today. They're all important. I know I say that a lot, and people probably go, Carl, they're not all important. Yeah, they are. To somebody, they're all important. And it's about autoimmunity. Our nation is deep in this rabbit hole of autoimmunity. It's very, very new, but it's emerging as a very, very problematic disease. I have a guy coming on next week to talk about osteoarthritis is actually an autoimmune disorder. I've been saying it for years, and I have people challenge me all the time. Just recently, I got an email from a guy who challenged me and said, my doctor says you're wrong. Well, no, your doctor's wrong. Your doctor's just not up on the current research. So we're going to be talking about autoimmunity with none other than Joel Greene, who, when it comes to nutrition, there are few that can even compare with the breadth and depth of his knowledge about how it works with the body. But before we do that, of course, I have to thank my title sponsor, because they make these shows possible, and that's Legendary Foods. If you go to the website eatlegendary.com and use code SHR, you'll save 10% off all of their products. And everything that they make is what you want if you want to snack and not go off the deep end with lots of sugar and other crap, things that are agave nectar, oh, it's not sugar, it's agave nectar. No, it's sugar. Honey is sugar. Maple syrup is sugar. So go to eatlegendary.com, check them out. Use the coupon code SHR so they know that you learned about them from the show and you are supporting the show as well. Let me bring my guest on, get rid of this first and turn that off. How you doing, Joel?
Hey, good, Carl. How are you, man?
Let me just turn up your volume just a tiny bit. I may have turned it down too much. There we go. That's better. I'm doing good. And it's not an exaggeration what I said about autoimmunity. Everybody I know has some sort of autoimmune disorder. And now it's just a matter of understanding that it is an autoimmune disorder. Like fibromyalgia, they keep going back and forth and going, it is autoimmune. It's not. It's absolutely autoimmune in nature. It's affected by diet. Anything that's affected by diet is autoimmune. Is that a too broad of a statement?
Yes. It's mostly true. Yeah. Diet is, I would say, is probably the primary contributor to autoimmunity, just because there's so many aspects of it that aren't even really considered in the picture. So yeah.
So let's just for a second, because you just wrote a fantastic book that everybody should go out, and it's called Immunity Code, and you can get it at Veep Nutrition, VEEP Nutrition.com. And it has a great testimonial from a guy who I respect completely when it comes to science, and that is Ron Penna, who says that you go beyond thinking about concepts and actually deliver solutions to problems. And that's really the thing. When we talk about autoimmunity, telling somebody with Crohn's disease, oh, it's an autoimmune disorder, doesn't solve the problem. Who cares? Okay, so it's an autoimmune disorder. What do I do now, right?
Right, yep. Absolutely.
So talk about just a 30,000-foot view about what autoimmunity is. Is it in fact a phenomenon where things show up in your tissue that your body thinks are bad actors and tries to eradicate them and then destroys the neighboring tissue? Kind of like the old drive-by wars in Los Angeles, where everybody got killed plus the guy they were trying to kill.
Good analogy. Yeah. So the easy way to think of autoimmunity is it just has to do with self versus not self. And our body, our immune system, is always looking for things that are not self. And in the process of eating, particularly, the process of what we incorporate into our tissues in the diet, we take in raw materials. So we take in building materials, in effect, substrate, things that are needed to make the architecture of the body. And think of it just as bricks. So it's very possible that you can take in, let's quote, quote unquote, bricks that the body will incorporate into, let's say, the walls of the structure that the immune system sees as not self. And what it will do then is begin to attack those things that are not self in order to get rid of them. And it happens every day. Like, the normal immunity involves always, on an ongoing basis, autoimmune issues to a level of degree. The difference really just gets to signal versus noise. So there's the noise of immunity, autoimmunity, which is always going on, and you don't notice it, it's just in the background. And then it becomes signal, it becomes something you notice when you've got way too much going on. And that's where it becomes an issue.
So what's the name of this glycoprotein? I'm not going to try to say it. It's actually, even the acronym is difficult, right?
Yeah. There's the glycoprotein we're going to talk about is called N-glycolylneuraminic acid. And it is a sugar. It's the easy way to think of it. And it's a sugar, oddly enough, that's found in meat.
So it's bound to protein, babe. That's what a glycoprotein is. It's a molecule of sugar and a molecule of protein bound together, right?
Right. And glycans are very much underappreciated when it comes to their function and their use across the body, and particularly in immunity. So the thing about glycans that you have to begin with is that they make up most of the key membranes of the body. Most of them are made up of glycans. So combinations of sugars and proteins together. And they are very much involved in the immune process. They're central mediators of immunity. So we don't think of meat like containing sugar normally. We don't think of it that way. In fact, I remember there was a thread that you and myself and Ron and I think Mark Bell were in on, where we were talking about issues with meat. And I mentioned, well, one of the issues with meat is sugars. And I was referring to this. So N-glycolylneuraminic acid, it goes by an acronym 5-NGNU. And it is a sugar that you take in from meat sources. And it's a glycan that gets incorporated into the tissues of your body. So that's what it is.
So but now all mammals have this glycan, correct?
Well, we have species specific glycans.
That's what I was going for. So this is where really some of the challenges come in, because these are in fact species specific. As a result, that's why they seem to maybe be red flags for our immune system, because it's interesting. When we think of these, as you're discussing this, I'm thinking of analogies. Mm-hmm. So we have smart bombs that if you paint it with a certain frequency of laser, you can paint the roof, it looks for that. So these glycans are actually designed to develop immunity. We say, hey, we need to put these glycans out there so that when these things show up, the immune system goes after them. Now, all of a sudden, instead of painting the terrorists' roof, you're painting the neighbors' roofs as well. And all of a sudden, these smart bombs aren't so smart anymore. They're doing their job, but they're just being misdirected. So it sounds like this glycoprotein actually causes the immune system to misdirect its efforts.
Yeah, I love that analogy. That's very good. Really good analogy. Really. So I think the way to think of glycoproteins is that they function as antigens. That's what they can function as, is antigens. And so if you have antigens that become incorporated into your tissues, then through the process of sensing those antigens, the body's always sort of, painting them with a laser, so to speak, to see if it's friend or foe. And so to use your analogy, that's exactly what can happen. If you have, let's say the tiles of your roof have too many of these in place, then you're going to get painted, or the roof's going to get painted to get targeted. And that's a very good explanation. Yeah.
Okay, so these glycoproteins seem to occur in red meat. Why is red meat the problem? Because I want to back up for a second. So I had Dr. Grundy on this show 5 years ago, the plant paradox guy, and since him, a lot of people have come out and said, if you have autoimmunity, you just have to cut out everything that grows out of the ground, go straight animal protein, animal fats, nothing else. And some people actually get relief from their autoimmunity from the carnivore or keto diet, but not everybody. Some people continue to see their autoimmunity and they're baffled. It's like, well, if meat's not working for you, you got something else going on. But what you're talking about here is red meat can contribute to autoimmunity. How does it do that?
Yeah, so there's two things in what you said. One, you mentioned that there is sort of a feeling of relief when you come off something else and you go on like an all meat diet. And there's very good reasons for that, but they have nothing to do so much with the cessation of plant immunity. They have more to do with the function of how aminos actually work within the colonocytes in the gut. So that's sort of one thing we'll cover maybe at the end of the show. But the other piece of it, so how does meat contribute to autoimmunity, is actually pretty fascinating. I'll say up front, I'm a meat guy. I love meat. I eat meat. I'm very pro meat. In fact, in 2007, I wrote some of the, pretty early on, was writing articles about the benefits of red meat and listing all the studies and all that stuff. So I've always been very pro meat. But the way to think of it is like, it's kind of like water. Meat is like water in the sense that water is great. Water is essential. You need water. It's essential. Too much, it'll kill you. And
right.
Meat is very much the same way. So what I would say about meat is that it's essential. You need it. Too much, and you're going to have issues. And so let's kind of paint the whole combo with that, because every time I get into this, you get these hyperpolarized, tribes. The pro meat versus plant, and you're just against meat.
If your diet comes with a membership card and an annual cruise, you're eating it for the wrong reason. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, very true. So I've got a big stack of ribeyes in my fridge. So meat people lay off. Okay.
Right.
But what we're working towards here is what's true. We're just working towards what's true about how the body works. And so to say that all autoimmune issues come from plants, that's not true. That's mistaken. And in fact, we could do shows on why that's not true. But specific to meat, the issue you get is, so you have N-glycolylneuraminic acid in meat, okay? And it exists naturally in meat, it's natural sugar. What happens is when you take that into the diet, then your body's going to break down everything in the meat and it's going to use it for raw materials. One of the things it's going to do is it's going to take glycolylneuraminic acid. It's going to pull it into the Golgi complex, and you're going to get what's called sialation of glycans going on. Okay, and then what's going to happen is it's going to kick back out into the cytosol, and now it's available for incorporation into glycans into the cell membrane. So it takes that raw building material that's in meat, takes it in, breaks it down, and uses it in cell membranes.
It's interchangeable. Now, it's like NATO ammo, right? If I find your bullets on the field, I can use them. Yeah.
Great example. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's like 5.56.
Right.
So what happens is when you get that 5.56 in our body and it gets incorporated, here's the cell membrane, and it gets incorporated into the cell membrane.
Keep talking. So I'm going to put this image up while you're talking. Keep talking. Go ahead.
So what's going to happen is you can see it there. You can see it sticking out of the cell membrane. Looks like that little pair of
looks like television antennas. It looks like TV antenna. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to stick out of the cell membrane. So now here's what's going on. You have a non-human sugar sticking out of your cell membranes. Okay, it's non-human. It's not native to the human body, this sugar. So your immune system looks at that and says, not human, attack. So there is an antibody that is an anti-5-NGC antibody, and it will begin to attack that. Now, again, let's go back to signal and noise. Not a big deal. Not a big deal in small amounts. You've always got all kinds of autoimmune reactions going on. It's just not that big a deal. But what can happen is when you get too much of it, like your cell membranes become permeated with those little antennas poking out all over the place. Well, then what happens? You're going to make more antibodies. So then what happens? Well, then as the body's cell membranes, particularly in the gut, you begin to have this non-human sugar poking out everywhere. Well, now all of a sudden you've got this ongoing immune reaction that rises above the level of noise to become a very potent signal.
It's like whack-a-mole. Yeah, it sticks its head up, and the immune system goes, "Hey, look at that," and goes right at it. Yeah,
it's whack-a-mole.
It's whack-a-mole. I have this uncanny ability to make everything that's technically scientific sound stupid. Oh yeah, it's whack-a-mole.
I love it. Okay, yeah, that's the analogy. It's cellular whack-a-mole. So again, not a big deal. Like if you're eating, a regular diet and you're having, steak and all that, it's just not a big deal. It's balanced out. But what can happen is if you're taking in tons of substrate, tons of N-glycolylneuraminic acid, and the membranes of your body are just getting saturated with this. Now you can get a disease, and that disease is called xenocellulitis. So xeno means external. In fact, N-glycolylneuraminic acid is what's known as a Xeno-auto-antigen. So it's an autoantigen. Autoantigens can provoke autoimmunity, and they are external to the body. So yeah, when you begin to take in nothing but meat, well, what you're doing is you're playing a game of math. You're taking in lots and lots and lots of substrate. That substrate can be incorporated into the body's tissues, and then you have lots and lots of those little antennas poking out. Mm-hmm. And now you might begin to notice something. I can tell you for a fact, I've had people that I know that have come to me for different reasons, and they were doing one thing, then they switched to another thing, and they went all meat, and they've had autoimmune issues. I'm not saying that's the cause, but it certainly may be a huge factor. So it's a very real thing.
So let's go back to the days of anecdotal evidence in the early years of physical culture. Vince Gironda, Armand Tanny, Jack LaLanne all believed that you had to, like, if you can eat beef protein, chicken protein, egg protein, whey protein, but you shouldn't just eat beef protein, because they claimed when someone went strictly just one type of nutritional protein source, and I'm looking for something because I put it up here, they actually developed immune responses. They had allergies. They would eat this stuff and they would feel horrible, or they'd break out in hives, or they'd have this and that. And so back then, these guys said, you got to rotate your protein or you start to become allergic to it. It sounds to me that they stumbled onto this phenomenon without realizing what was going on.
100%, yeah. Anybody that's been around the game of nutrition long enough and worked with enough people that really knows their stuff will probably tell you that. Just not even knowing about what we're talking about. They'll tell you that, no, you need to vary it up, because if you don't, you're going to get an allergy if you keep eating chicken. If you just keep eating this, you're going to get an allergy. And it's just true of, really, I'd argue it's true of any food. But if you do too much of any one food, you're going to get an allergy. And
when I was a kid, Joel, I was very fat. However, I drank milk all day long. I just loved milk. And in fact, my father used to joke and say, we're going to have to buy a cow because we can't keep up. And I became very fat from drinking milk. I also developed an allergy to milk, and I had to stop drinking it. And there you go. Because what was happening with the milk is similar to what was happening here. If you drink a gallon of milk every single day, whatever those building blocks that you're giving your body that are being salvaged from that milk are going to be incorporated into your cell membranes at a higher density, more of. And this is when the immune system goes, wow, what's going on over there? Maybe we should send some inflammation over there to destroy something. So it's really interesting.
You just hit on something that is so important to what's true. And we'll come back to what I was saying. Like we're just looking for what's true. That's all we're looking for. We're looking for what's really true. And how do things actually work? So when we ask how do things work, we're asking about machinery. Like, well, how does it work? Does the gas go in a cylinder first and then the piston, pushes? How does it work? That's what we're looking for. So what you just hit on, it was one of the central arguments I made in my book, which was that balance isn't just like a nice sounding idea or cool sounding word. It's an essentiality based on how the body actually works. It's mechanistic in its nature, so that what I've seen, I think what you're speaking to, I think what a lot of people who've done this long enough will say, is that when you see sort of too much of any one thing, you're going to see issues. You're going to see autoimmune issues. You're going to see issues pop up that were never there before. You never had an issue, and all of a sudden you did way too much of something for too long a time, and now you can't do that one thing, or now you have issues. And I think that's very common in the realm of anecdotal experience.
And to that point, it's not just meat. It could be somebody who eats pasta for 5 meals a day for 20 years.
Yeah,
They'll
right.
end up developing autoimmune issues because of the building blocks that they just drown their body in. It doesn't matter. This this is really intriguing. Balanced diet is an overused term that has lost any real meaning today, because balance has been driven by eat these products. Like, oh, you should be eating these products too. But really, at the end of the day, if you look at us from an evolutionary perspective, we're told that we were opportunistic. The reason we survived is because we were opportunistic. Well, you know why we're opportunistic? Because we had nothing continuously and consistently. So we were always switching foods based on what was available, based on the climate of where we lived, based on the weather at the time. So this idea that, people come out and go, oh, prehistoric man, all he ate was meat. That's BS. And he also,
it's complete bullshit.
I know, but God forbid you say that to the people. They're like, oh no, what else could they have eaten in the wintertime? There were no plants. Okay, so they didn't eat plants in wintertime, but they probably ate them in the summertime.
Well, this is I don't know if I hit this well enough in my book. I might do some extra videos on it, but it gets to the idea of the power of narrative, and narrative and science very often get conflated. So things that we think are science are really narrative, and things that are, it's easy to conflate the two. And it's something you have to be kind of very careful about. So there's all these ancestral narratives today, and they're useful. I use them.
Yes.
Okay? They're useful to an extent, but they are not gospel. They are not fact. So when we cook up ancestral narratives of what people did, the real truth is no one knows. Like, nobody was there. But
you know what's good? But you know what's really good that you've done on this show, and we've done numerous shows using current hunter-gatherers. Right. There are still hunter-gatherer societies out there that have remained fairly intact. And we find out, oh my God, when they find a beehive in a cave that's got like 60 pounds of honey, they eat the honey all day long until it's gone. Right. So this idea that, well, no, they're always in ketosis, baloney. That's why we're opportunistic, because we can survive on just about anything we find that doesn't kill us.
Totally, yeah. I mean, my response to when someone's giving the ancestral narrative of what people ate and that's all they ate was, well, where was the refrigerator? Because it's not like you had truckloads of it's not like you had refrigerators sitting by with truckloads of meat. You ate what was available.
Right.
I'm thinking back to a show that you and I did. That was a really good show. We were talking about ancestral diets and what people ate, and for that show, I actually went and looked at the available data on ancestral diets. And what was interesting was that for the, I would say all of the studies that I reviewed for that, they weren't based on what people actually ate. They were based on inferring what the researcher thought they ate based on what was there.
Right.
But that's not reality. And there was something else for that show that I did. I went down to the mission here in San Juan Capistrano down here in Orange County. And on the mission wall, they actually have the Paleo Indians, and they have what they ate on the wall. And their diet was varied. It included things like seals. They would hunt whales. It included foxes. It included deer. But then it included berries. It included nuts. It included roots. It included everything. It just was whatever was available they would eat.
That's it. And that's why we have to stop this monolithic approach to nutrition, quite frankly. But there are some things that people are allergic to. You got to learn what those are. You got to pay attention. If I eat something and I literally become congested, or if I eat something and I get a tickle in my throat immediately upon swallowing it, I think, oh, that's probably not good for me, because that's my immune system reacting to what I'm putting in my mouth. It's not even in my cells yet at that point in time. So, people need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, very much so. That it brings up a very important point, which in my book, I talked a lot about. If you want to get on the fiber bandwagon, you need to kind of ease into it. You need to sort of manage your symptoms until you're asymptomatic. And it's really true of anything. So some people, they'll eat meat and they're just not comfortable, they feel nauseated. Well, it's because you ate too much. So we're always the point of my book was that immune-centric health puts the body's immunity system at the center of everything you're doing. So we're always having immune reactions to stuff, always having immune reactions to food. It's just that they're very small. As long as they're very small, you don't notice them, and then you find that you can do more of a thing that you used to not be able to do. And so immunity and immune reactions and managing them in respect to food is more like balancing a ball in the air than it is a black and white proposition. You can go eat things that you think you can't handle, and if you just eat much smaller amounts and hormetically work your way up the chain, you'll find you can adapt to a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm looking at some people are saying that they can't hear you very well, but your volume is wide open. So I don't understand. Maybe that was just their end there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I want to flip the script a little bit. You know, I get so frustrated when I see these absolute comments about alkalinity and acidity. And I happen to know that the body regulates alkalinity and acidity in specific tissue very, very tightly. And it's not a monolith. Your brain and your pancreas have a much lower pH, higher acidity than some other tissue. So it's not like as though your whole body is supposed to be 7.6. And also this idea that what you eat can greatly influence the pH of your body is really a lie, because your body will steal minerals from your bones to keep that narrow scope. However, with that being said, there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about what actually causes a greater degree of acidity and alkalinity in the body. And I want to talk about meat, because everybody says, oh, meat is acidic because amino acids are acids. And so it's acidic. Right. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. And I'd appreciate it if those of you who have been watching and commenting, just let me know that Joel's audio is where it belongs. And we'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Stay. Hey, this is Carl. For 14 years, you've heard me talk about Can-C eye drops, and they being the reason that I do not need reading glasses at now 61 years old. But I regularly get emails and messages from people who've been using Can-C and having some amazing results. Recently, I got an email from a fellow named Chad, who, because he was on dexamethasone eye drops for over 6 months, developed a cataract. Can-C eye drops actually reduced my cataract to the point where even my doctor has a hard time finding it. I will never stop using Can-C eye drops twice a day. I've been using them since 2008, he says. And you should be too. There is no better way to keep your eyes healthy and seeing clearly than Can-C eye drops. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com today and get on board, and we will both be looking into the future with very clear vision. I love beef, and if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender, with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 2 free 10-ounce New York strips when you purchase $50 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to Piedmontese.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again. You've heard me talk about the chill pill on the show and how effective it is at helping people who suffer from social anxiety, or sometimes when you just want to take the edge off to a long, stressful day. Well, listen to this story from Dylan Goutreau.
Definitely takes anxiety away, which I have a long history of having. Started out at 2 milligrams a day of Xanax. That was at 8 years old. And so I stopped using benzos 3 years ago. Extremely difficult. Yeah, so I spent about 3 years trying to find anything and everything I could that would be healthy for me to help with anxiety. Because I'm talking, full out panic attack. The chill pill was the first thing that I've found that actually in the middle of a panic attack I can take, and it definitely subsides.
Go to drseeds.com. That's DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your first bottle of the chill pill. Check it out. I promise this is one supplement that delivers Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Select Savory Snacks Original Biltong is the healthier alternative to sugar-laden beef jerky. Their sugar-free biltong is seasoned and then air-dried for up to 2 weeks, providing you with one of the most tender and flavorful meat snacks that you've ever had. They also use a fattier cut of beef, which adds to the tenderness and gives their biltong even better flavor. Select Savory Snacks Original Biltong is the perfect snack or travel companion for your busy life. Get a free bottle of Ranch-tastic seasoning with every order. Free shipping on orders of $99 or more. Get yours today at selectsavory.com/SHR.
Planet Earth CBD offers a fast-acting transdermal patch that targets your aches and pains for the relief you need. Not only is the patch uniquely patented, but it is widely believed to provide larger quantities of available cannabinoids to the source of pain than other brands' subpar products. Effective for 24 to 48 hours. Experience the benefits of Planet Earth's high-quality transdermal patch. Manufactured by Next Generation Technology in an FDA-registered facility. This pressure-sensitive adhesive delivers rich hemp extract directly through the skin. Be it a neck ache or a headache, you can count on CBD to take off the edge. Go to planetearthcbd.com today to learn more.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
We have two new sponsors, and we have more. I actually found somebody to sell that is just, the guy is unbelievable. I mean, I'm going to be back at a 2-hour show in no time at all. But this company here has a great product. This is a transdermal CBD patch that delivers 40 milligrams of CBD, powerful CBD, pain analgesic CBD, right to the source. Instead of taking it and, you know, oh yeah, my pain goes away after a few days, but I also feel a little sluggish now. You don't have to deal with that. If your elbow hurts, you put this on your elbow. That's it. Lasts for 2 days. If you go to superhumanradio.net, you'll find their banner ad. It's worthy of your. I've experimented with it. It works. So if you have chronic niggling pain as you get older, and you don't want to take NSAIDs, and you don't want to take something systemically because your shoulder hurts, this is it, man. This is all you need. Planet Earth CBD transdermal patches. Check them out. Anyway, you know, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, just a quick CBD note. Actually, a CBD and a Piedmontese note. Can I do two?
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Yeah. So CBD with this whole COVID thing, one thing to understand is that, my opinion is that the sweet spot for short-circuiting the virus is to short-circuit it before it ever attaches to the cell. And so to do that, you want to basically want to stop the cytokine storm. So you want to interfere with interleukin-6, and CBD is one of the best, maybe the best, sort of over-the-counter ways to do that. So
really?
Good CBD product is if you're concerned about COVID, a good CBD product is essential. You have to have it, because if you think you're getting sick, you want to shut down. The reason people get really, really life-threatening sort of conditions or symptomology.
The inflammatory response. Yeah.
The inflammatory storm from
right.
COVID. Yeah, it's a cytokine storm. If you shut the cytokine storm down, you're not going to have a life.
You don't die from COVID. Yeah, people don't die from COVID. They die from the immune system's overactive response to COVID.
Exactly. So if you shut that response down before cell attachment, then you're never going to see the life-threatening symptomology. So CBD is one of the most powerful ways you can do that. So that's my...
You know, we don't even know this because no one's looking, but I wonder how many of the asymptomatic infected people use cannabinoids, whether it's states where it's legal to smoke weed and use gummies and stuff, or they're using CBD for another reason. And then they went into the hospital for something else, and they were like, "Oh, you've got COVID." And like, yeah, I don't have a fever. I don't have any problems. I wonder if we could do like, look at that. Those asymptomatic people, are they using some of these products?
That would be really interesting. I mean, it's true of all the healthy people, like all of the healthy people that are maybe they got exposed to COVID, 95%, let's say, and it didn't have really, they didn't develop the acute symptomology. It's for those reasons. They're just shutting the virus down before it attaches to the cell. They're binding the S spike protein. They're knocking out the cytokine storm, and they just do it because they're healthy. So that's very true. The other note, the Piedmontese note.
Go ahead, I'm listening. I was just looking at Tommy D said that he's applying the principles from your book, Immunity Code. He said it flies in the face of dogmatic health and nutrition, and does some with awesome results. So that's very, very good. Yeah,
I love you, Tommy.
There you go. Tommy's he's always here. He's always listening.
He's awesome.
He's one of my big supporters. He really is.
Oh, I love him. I was gonna say on the Piedmontese thing, kind of an interesting side note, but I was at the Anaheim Nutrition Show, the Natural Products West show, about a few years ago, and the Piedmontese guys were there, and they were just they were making their play, and I sat down and I didn't know anything about Piedmontese beef, and I sat down and we just talked, because I like talking to ranchers, because ranchers I find know more than anybody about things. And you want to find a guy that's switched on, find a rancher.
Right.
So I was just talking to him, and he was the guy that told me, which was amazing, that what you find, he was going through the grades of grass-fed beef, and what he was telling me is that what you find with normally in the wild with herd animals, they're going to all stick together in a circle, and so their hooves are all stepping onto each other's manure, and then they're grazing on top of that, and so there's a level of immunity that those animals have that's not found in corralled or even pasture-fed animals that don't have any threat. So they just wander off by themselves and they eat, and they're not getting the same level of immunity in building it into their tissues that Piedmontese cows were, because of the way that they herded them. So it was really fascinating.
And plus, that's such a fascinating breed, because who doesn't love myostatin null animals? I mean, they just get huge and muscular. I mean, it's just, when you think about it, like who would you want? What beef do you want to eat? Like, I never thought about it, but like myostatin null bulls and cows, they're like nothing but great dense protein. But let me ask you a question before we get into the alkalinity, acidity discussion. Don't when we cook beef, that Maillard effect is the browning of glycogen and sugars that are in, and I would imagine glycoproteins. Doesn't cooking break down these glycoproteins?
Not completely. No.
Okay.
No.
All right. It was worth a shot. So let's talk about this favorite subject of every health guru out there. It's either essential oils or alkalinity and acidity that's going to change your life. Talk about it with beef. Is beef really a highly acidic food to eat? Does it change your pH by eating a lot of meat?
Well, the premise is false. The idea that alkalinity and pH. So if you've read the book, you're familiar with baby talk. I call it sort of this polarized way of looking at this. So alkalinity is good, meat is bad.
Yeah, the goo goo gaga of nutrition. Yes, I agree.
I don't know, but I just know the alkalinity is bad. It's kind of that. Right. That's not how the body works. To your point, the pH in the body is a switch. pH works as a mechanistic switch, and it tightly regulates different things turning on and off. So the body's compartments as you go through the gut are tightly regulated for pH. There's a guy that you want to have on the show. I think Mark Bell had him on, or Ben Greenfield had him on recently, and he's the guy behind the molecular H2 hydrogen product. His name is. Oh,
he's been on. They've been on my show already.
Okay. So
the H2O pills. They were actually on my. They were actually sponsors last year. Yeah, good.
Yeah. He did my seminar back in 2017. My body hack seminar, and his point is that the second that you take in alkaline water into the gut, the stomach acidity neutralizes all the alkalinity, which is
of course needs to work. because the gut is got a pH of 1. We're talking about battery acid. So if you think eating something that's alkaline is going to influence your body tissue's pH, when you literally have battery acid in there, like come on, it doesn't even, like the second you drink water, it becomes acidic once it gets in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so he kind of kills that argument rather well. I don't want to steal his thunder, but kind of in the bigger picture, what's important to understand is that we have these ideas that aren't true, that alkalinity is good, acidity is bad, and that meat is acidic, and therefore that makes meat bad. But you can take that a step farther. There was a thread recently I saw by one of the kind of thought leaders in the meat movement trying to prove that the acidity of meat isn't bad. It makes the body alkaline, and that's good. And I actually responded in that thread, kind of pointing some things out. But the truth is, alkalinity in the colon is horrible. It's the last thing you want. And meat, excessive meat, will alkalize the colon, and that's a major cancer promoter. So it doesn't work that way. It just simply doesn't work in this simplistic black, white, good, bad narrative that everybody's been sucked into, that is A, totally wrong, and B, has nothing to do with the reality of how things actually work, which again, we're just trying to figure out what's true, how do things work, and how things work is that meat alkalizes the colon, and alkalinity in the colon is bad. You don't want excessive alkalinity in the colon. It's a cancer promoter. That's how things actually work.
So here's an interesting side note. I did a lot of reading over the past 5 or 6 years into GERD and silent GERD. And an interesting phenomenon in people that suffer from chronic GERD is that their teeth wear faster because of the hyperacidic environment, the chyme. But the people who have silent GERD, they have this small amount of acid seeping out of the gut, and they get this lemony taste in their mouth. They have less plaque buildup in their mouth. Now think about this for a second, right? So we look at the mouth as the canary in the mine for overall health in the body. If you get a lot of plaque behind your teeth, you're probably getting plaque in your arteries. But this is an argument for the mouth to be slightly acidic, not more alkaline. And I started thinking about it. I thought, I wonder if all this nonsense we've heard for decades about acid leading to cavities is actually wrong, because if the microbes can't live in the mouth that eat your teeth, that cause cavities, then you won't have cavities. I would love to find out if people who suffer from silent GERD find out when they go to the dentist that their gums are great. I have a feeling that a slightly acidic mouth is probably more important than trying to achieve total body alkalinity. It's just a guess. So.
It's interesting. I haven't studied it, so I wouldn't be able to comment. But it wouldn't surprise me. You know, so many things that we talk about are always counterintuitive. So you think one thing, you think alkalinity is good until you look at it in the colon, and then you see these cancer-forming adducts, and you see carbonylated alkyls and all this stuff, or alkylated carbonyls, and it's the exact opposite of what you thought. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
So filtration. So Jeff, I'm going to go right to this real quick. He's asking about filtration systems because of the whole alkalinity. Look, spring water generally has an alkalinity of between 7.6 and like 9.5, depending on the region of the world. So, but this spring water is that way not because of the alkalinity. It's because rushing through rocks for thousands and millions of years, it picks up minerals. And these minerals are good for us, not because they're going to alkalize our body, but because if you don't have minerals, so the osmotic process is things move from a higher gradient to a lower gradient naturally. And if your water is empty and has no minerals, as it passes through your body, it'll take them from your body. So if your water has minerals, it just spares the minerals in your body already. And it's the way we evolved. We evolved drinking water with minerals in them. Now, is it because of alkalinity? Absolutely not. It has nothing to do with alkalinity. As I said a second ago, the second you drink that $4 a gallon alkaline water, it's acidic because you just poured it into battery acid. And it doesn't stay separate. It's not like the water goes, okay, we're structured molecules, we'll stay together. No, it's in acid now. It's going to pick up some of the acid, and the pH is going to become the mean of the stomach and the water. As far as filtration goes, if you add minerals back into the water, reverse osmosis is the king because it gets everything out. It gets everything out. That molecular sieve approach of going through that membrane even removes pharmaceuticals but you have to put minerals back into it. That's the only thing I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, that's such a fascinating area. That's, to me, water with minerals is one of those bang for the buck things that you can do. Like I use mineral water, like highly mineralized, before workouts, and it's like the best pre-workout ever. You get these huge pumps. If you've ever talked to anybody that like has access to like a super pure source of water running in a stream where the water's running, and you just go and drink that water, it's like caffeine. You get this instant like switched on kind of feeling.
Right.
Yeah. And that switched on feeling has to do with minerals. So minerals function as electrochemical conductors, and we're generally missing these things. So yes,
in fact, I would argue that if you don't pay attention to your mineral intake and you're using anabolic steroids, you will not see the strength gains that you're looking for. If you just look at trenbolone for a second, probably the most powerful androgen out there that literally builds strength in weeks. It modifies the calcium channel. It turns the calcium channel up big time. And that increases contractile force. It's not because of the androgen receptor. It's because anabolic steroids and sex hormones in general, they mediate and modulate amino acid pools, and they regulate these channels. Magnesium channel relaxes the muscle. Calcium channel pulls it flexes the fibers. When you have something that acts on those, you see strength gains. If you're not paying attention to your minerals now, even without anabolic steroids, I can tell you you're not as strong as you can be. So,
yeah, there were these minerals that I turned Ron onto that were chelated. We were having just a talk one day about like Ron Panna, for those of you watching with Quest Nutrition, and we were just having a talk about like stuff that actually works. And I was like, okay, you want something that really works? Take chelated minerals at bedtime and watch what happens. And they're cheap, like $5, you can get them. And sure enough, he was like, yeah, I'm like, you'll wake up with a pump.
Yeah, because your fluid, it adjusts that gradient. It pulls fluid into the muscles.
Yeah, minerals probably the most,
underestimated. And even minerals they're doing wrong now because what they're doing with minerals, because of keto, flu, you need more salt. It's like saying the orchestra just needs tubas. Let's just have tubas. Let's get rid of the world with the wind. What are they? Windwoods. Let's get rid of the strings. Let's just have tubas. Everybody focuses on one mineral. Oh, magnesium advocacy. Take tons of magnesium. It's stupid. You need them all. You need chloride. You need potassium. You need them all. And focusing on one and sacrificing others is a big mistake. Let's talk real quick about meat fermenting and the colon for a second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the thing to understand about meat is that it ferments just like fiber. Like fiber, that's a big point that I made in the book. Fiber ferments. That's where you get a lot of the benefits from it. It's also where you get the symptomology. So you have to kind of, ease into fiber. But meat ferments, and it's easy to prove. Like if you want to prove meat ferments, just leave it out overnight and then eat it and watch what happens. Okay, yeah, that's easy. You can prove it. So the problem is the types of bacteria that ferment meat. That's an issue. So you can make the short chain fatty acids from meat, but the proportions that you're going to get are going to be very, very different from fiber. You're going to get different ratios of propionate, acetate, butyrate. And what you're going to find that when meat ferments in the gut, certain types of bacteria like fusobacteria love to ferment meat in the gut. And so the fermentation of meat in the gut is linked to cancer-causing compounds because cancer-causing bacteria like to ferment meat. Now, it's offset quite easily just by adding a little bit of fiber into the equation, and the fiber will ferment, the meat doesn't ferment. So you basically create a competition for resources, and you just give a little edge to the fibrous bacteria, and then voila, you don't have the issue. So balance, once again, plays out there. But the thing to understand about meat is that it ferments in the gut, and the fermentation of meat can produce cancer-promoting compounds.
Yeah, and that's a really important one. So what I want to do is we're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to cover the most important parts of this discussion. If you suspect that meat is at the root of some of your autoimmunity, what can you do? We're also going to talk about how to not get caught in this logjam in the first place. So we're going to be discussing diet and cell turnover. In the meantime, you can go to Joel's website, which is Veep, VEEP Nutrition, and you can buy the new book, which, you know, this book is like the foundational book for everything that you could think of, because when we come, no matter what it is, whether it's recovery from workouts, whether it's avoiding diseases, whether it's not folding under the weight of a disease, we come to the immune system. When we talk about the immune system, we talk about the gut. When we talk about the immune system, we're talking about inflammation. Everybody says, oh, inflammation is the root of every disease. Then why are you not paying attention to your gut and your immune system? Because inflammation is the army of the immune system. So this is more important, even for those of you who train and think, well, I'm not interested in this stuff. I'm just interested in building muscle. We already know that if your immune system is jacked up and inflammation is high, you're not going to see the muscle recovery that you should, because there's a trough and there's a peak. And when the trough and the peak start getting too close together, you don't see the muscle gains that you're looking for. So pay attention to the immune system, because it rewards everything that we're talking about. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. If there is one mineral you should be worried about not getting enough of, it's magnesium. Magnesium is the body's master mineral, powering over 300 critical reactions, including detoxification, fat metabolism, energy, and even digestion is influenced by the presence of magnesium. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about a new magnesium product I've been taking now called Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the ultimate magnesium supplement, easily the best I've ever seen or experienced. With all 7 forms of magnesium, I was able to arrange an amazing deal for my audience, and I guarantee it's the best deal available on this product. Seriously, with volume discounts combined with our custom 10% coupon code SHR10, you can save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough. And I promise that this deal is only available on this specific website, magbreakthrough.com/SHR. You won't find that deal on Amazon or even on the company's own website. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use code SHR10 to save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough. You've heard about blood flow restriction training since 2006 on SHR, but you're still on the fence. Well, here's the push. BFR is more effective at building muscle than anabolic steroids. That's right, I went there, but it's because it's the truth. My experience with the Be Strong blood flow restriction system is proof to me, and now I'm asking myself why I waited so long. You'll see undeniable changes in the targeted muscles in days and weeks like nothing you've ever tried before. I will never stop using them. Give Be Strong a try. Go to BStrong.training/super-human and use code SHR for 10% off. Are you still on the fence about Body Protection Complex BPC Oral from drseeds.com? Listen to Maggie Kuhn, one of the owners of the C-Bus lifting company, Gym, in Columbus, Ohio.
I had been having some nagging tendon issues that weren't injuries, just things that were annoying. You know, I'm 58 years old, so just older tendon kind of issues. For us powerlifters, you know, we really don't stop training when we have just nagging issues. We just kind of keep pushing through. And I started the BPC. What I noticed was I was doing some heavy tricep stuff that would have killed me before when I had an elbow problem, and I was able to do this with literally no pain at all.
Go to drseeds.com, DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your bottle of BPC Body Protection Complex today. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today. If there is one mineral you should be worried about not getting enough of, it's magnesium. Magnesium is the body's master mineral, powering over 300 critical reactions, including detoxification, fat metabolism, energy, and even digestion is influenced by the presence of magnesium. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about a new magnesium product I've been taking now called Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the ultimate magnesium supplement, easily the best I've ever seen or experienced. With all 7 forms of magnesium, I was able to arrange an amazing deal for my audience, and I guarantee me, it's the best deal available on this product. Seriously, with volume discounts combined with our custom 10% coupon code SHR10, you can save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough. And I promise that this deal is only available on this specific website, magbreakthrough.com/SHR. You won't find that deal on Amazon or even on the company's own website. Go to magbreakthrough.com/SHR and use code SHR10 to save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom-made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back. So now let's talk about what to do, because that's really where Joel excels over all these other quote unquote gurus out there. The first thing we should address is cell turnover, right? Since we're saying that these glycoproteins incorporate themselves into the cell membrane, then reducing the overall load requires cell membrane turnover, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the good news is you're not looking at something that's not fixable. As you begin to incorporate excess glycoprotein acid into your cell membranes, and you begin to get too much of it into the cell membranes, well, you can just simply begin to balance the diet out a little bit and sort of bring down, as cells turn over, the math, bring down the population of cells that are excessively representing this antigen, and allow cells that are not overexpressing it to sort of begin to take hold again.
So we know that cell turnover varies by the type of tissue from anywhere from 6 days to 6 months. Bone takes the longest to turn over. Do these glycoproteins find their way into bone cells as well? Osteoclasts or anything like that?
That's a good one. I don't know the specific answer to that. I'll have to research it.
Yeah, just be curious, because there's a lot of strange bone diseases out there. I wonder if these little bastards are the culprits behind it. So what's the diet? So I eat way too much beef. I probably eat 2 pounds of beef on average a day right now, and I have been for a while, because I keep thinking my autoimmunity will go away if I just eat more and more beef. So maybe, just maybe, I'm one of these people. So what do I do? How do I change my diet?
There's 2 aspects to what you just talked about, which I'll hit on both briefly. One is the essentiality of meat, why it's essential, but the other is balancing out the mechanism-specific problems presented by meat. So, long story short, the answer is add a little bit more balance into your diet, but specifically, there's different ways that you want to look at this. So, one idea is that it's a really good idea to add a little bit of fiber when you have meat. This is going to do 2 things. Number one, it's going to lower the pH of the colon very slightly just by adding a little bit of fiber. And that's good. That helps prevent these carbonylated alcohols and DNA adducts from being formed. And the other is it shifts the focus of fermentation in the gut. It shifts it away from so much the fermentation of meat. It kind of acts like detergent. So that's an idea. Now, you don't have to eat like, the 4 food groups, so you don't have to eat like a balanced diet every meal. That's certainly not what I'm saying. You can definitely do extreme pulses of things if you want to do periods where you're just doing a pure carnivore diet or a pure keto diet, or even just a pure plant diet. You can do those things. The number one takeaway I would give you is don't sustain those things for long periods ad infinitum with only one thing in the diet. That, in my opinion, would be probably the worst thing you can do. I think you're going to be looking at a very specific autoimmune reaction if you do that too long. And
Ron Penna, today is Ron's show. Ron and I have debated about, what's the one food you could eat always and survive and thrive. And, red meat, beef, and then egg. But while you can do that and survive and thrive, you will end up with some sort of nutrient deficiencies, I would imagine, no matter what. If you just had a monolithic diet, here's all I'm just going to eat beef every day from now on.
Right. Yeah. Well, you're going to be looking, first of all, I would argue that there are different types of grains that would also work in that model that he's talking about. There are sort of like staple grains that you could probably make the same argument with. In fact, you could probably point to cultures that have done nothing but that. Maybe they haven't experienced like optimal health or peak human health, but they've certainly survived. So I would counter that. But the other thing is that all the issues that we were talking about here come to the forefront, specifically too much of any one thing, and you're going to start to see autoimmune issues. That's the first thing. And then in terms of total nutrient array and what it is you need, here's an easy way to understand it. Now let me just bring it back to the gut, because the gut's where immunity begins. The upper half of the gut, so you're talking the intestines, the upper half of the gut needs aminos, which means animals, which means meat. That's the primary fuel source. It's also the primary mechanistic substrate for many of the immune processes the gut needs. The lower half of the gut, the colon, needs plants. So plants are the primary mechanistic driver of the lower half of the gut, the colon, and the cells there, they need butyrate to function. Fiber serves an essential process. So if you just look at how the gut works, you can make a very good case. The top half of the gut needs meat, the bottom half of the gut needs plants.
So which type of fiber do you recommend? Suzanne Buchanan wants to know.
Well, that's a whole show, Suzanne.
Yeah, right.
That's a whole show. There are, the case I make in my book is, if I was going to stack rank fiber, I would look at the type of bacteria that it feeds. So the first thing I would go to is, if you look at how immunity began in the gut, like when you first gained immunity, and ask, well, what did I need? What was it that I needed back then? Okay, you're going to come up with a couple of plants, a couple of animals that serve in the picture. You're going to see meat and, or excuse me, you're going to see milk and very much the glycans that are in milk and the specific sugars that are in milk begin immunity in the gut, so you need those. But then in terms of the types of fiber, I make the case in the book that apple pectin, apple skins, are very complementary, and there's a very good reason. So when you look at apple pectin, what it does, it's got two very broad actions that are really worth looking at. One is that it has very specific types of phenols in it. And these are very long chain phenols, super long chain. They're about 30,000 Daltons, whereas most phenols have very small size. They're about 100 phenols. So the very long chains that are present in the phenols in apple, basically they keep it from being digested in the skins. And what happens is they park it in the gut in specific compartments. And because of that, they make 8 times the Akkermansia by fermentation of those long chain polymers from virtually any other known food. So that's one aspect where apple skins sort of kind of complement these animal products very well. The other is that they have very specific functions on the gut junction proteins. So there are gut junction proteins like claudins that apple skins work directly on, and they basically get rid of things like lipopolysaccharide, and they help the gut seal up. So they're very complementary. So there's a mix of different types of phenols that you want to look at that come from fruit. And then there's a mix of different types of fibers that you want to look at that come from starches that don't digest very well. And key word is they don't digest very well. So when you're taking in starches that don't digest well, resistant starches, you have to start very, very, very small. The other key is if you have existing gut issues on top of that. If you have existing gut issues, like you've got colitis or you've got, Crohn's disease, or you have some type of issue, you're not going to be able to start with fiber. And this is where meat really shines. And you've heard the phrase meat heals. Well, it's very true, because amino acids in meat are essential for the gut mucus layer, and they're essential for a number of operations. A good example is tryptophan. You need tryptophan in the gut to catalyze the production of 5-HTP to make serotonin. And it also has a function in the gut of helping to rebuild the gut mucus layer. When you look at other types of aminos, they do very specific things that rebuild the gut layer. So aminos are essential, particularly they're essential for the upper gut and the intestines. And so when you combine aminos and you combine them with very specific types of fiber, you're really feeding the entire digestive tract.
And in fact, if you study human breast milk, the oligosaccharides in human breast milk are there to feed the fiber, not the baby.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating. Like, oh my God, like
Fascinating.
this is like there's a term called viatical for the journey. So the some of the sugar in breast milk is viatical for fiber. It's designed to keep the fiber alive and thriving, and so anyway,
It's essential. Yeah.
So one more question here, and then we're gonna wrap up. So this is fascinating. Jeff Clifton says, could you just sprinkle organic inulin over a steak and get your fiber, because it wouldn't really change the taste that much? But isn't inulin the one that through hydrolysis converts to fructose in the gut?
Well, there's different types of inulins, and they work in different ways. I wouldn't worry about the production of fructose in the gut from inulin so much. Right. It's not really a concern.
So inulin is a good source, right? It's a good source of fiber.
Yes, inulins do very specific things, and they're generally speaking they're very insulin friendly. They're very good on metabolic actions and processes that need to take place in the gut. You find people that take inulins seem to do fairly well, in terms of staying lean. So
what would a recovering meataholic do? Like, so I want to give this a try. I want to start to change my diet slightly, slowly. What is that? Small doses and small steps. So, what would I do? Do I cut one meat meal out a day? Do I just I'm already reducing my meat consumption because I'm moving to a 30 gram of protein per meal plan very shortly. And so right now I'm a reckless eater. I mean, if I'll buy a pound of meat and I'll just eat it, and like that's it. I'll eat another pound of meat 2 hours later. How do I wean myself out? What do I start to incorporate in, and how do I wean some things out?
Wow, you hit on 3 shows.
Okay, so we need to do more shows. That's what this means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me throw out one thing that is no one's ever talked about, and it's super, super important. It is the age-specific effect of excessive protein and the effect of excessive protein at different ages. Okay, so you have to factor this into the equation. So there's really good research that looks at excessive protein intake between the ages of 50 to about 65, and that is a major cancer promoter. Then after age 65, excessive protein intake correlates to long life. So you have this inverse effect. You have this thing going on where in the 50s, you want to cut protein intake down, kind of what you're doing right now. But then after 65, sarcopenia kicks in and all these other things kick in where the body is not growing as much. And so excessive protein really promotes long lifespan and health.
But I wonder if they take training and people who train like athletes into the fold when they do that sort of work. Because sometimes I think that when you eat a lot of protein, but you're not creating the signals for the protein synthetic response, I kind of feel like, that protein maybe gets bored and starts finding things to do that you don't want it to do, so to speak.
It would be interesting. There are aspects. Let's talk about the over 65 component. I don't think there's any that makes a ton of sense to me, that getting more protein intake over 65 would be a huge positive to lifespan. So the only question is really excessive protein intake between 50 to 65. And one of the things that we have to look at is you have to come back to the gut and the function within the colon. So a lot of your digestion is taking place within the colon, and you see colon cancer onset, and you see all these related factors that probably most of them may not impinge on training too much. They're more sort of metabolic and biochemical processes that relate to what's going on in the gut and the colon. And I think that's where the risk is. So it's not a completely baked subject. I think there's a lot of research that can still be done on it, but there is some sense to it. So I think it's worth putting a pin in and thinking about. Anyways, that being said, go ahead.
Okay, no. So the cell turnover is our savior because we can turn over cells and we can get rid of some of these glycoproteins. The diet should be balanced. And when we talk about balanced diet, we're not talking about the RDA or the USDA's idea of a balanced diet. We're talking about eating a variety of different foods that are not already known insults to your body. Right. If you don't want this to happen in the first place, I guess it's to remain on a diet that comes from a variety of different things that don't insult your body, that don't. Like grains don't, a lot of people don't do well with grains. I don't do well with grains. I've cut them out. So this comes back to everything in moderation, because I've heard that everything in moderation is a bad idea.
Well, let's forget what we know and just for a second put on some different lenses to think about all this stuff. So the first thing to think about is transitions in the diet. And let's draw a really broad analogy that think of it this way, like you're a power lifter and you decide to take up marathon running, okay? Should you run a marathon on the first day?
No.
Probably a horrible idea, right?
Yeah.
Should you run a mile the first day? No, probably not a good idea.
Probably just start walking, actually.
Why don't you start walking? Okay, so let's take that analogy and apply it to transitions in the diet. So if single pulses of food in the diet can create issues when done to the extreme, then changes in the diet can also produce issues when done to the extreme. But we would think the extreme seems normal to us. But you got to understand that if you've been eating like an all meat diet and you decide to start adding in plants, you're like that power lifter who's shifting into a marathon. So rather than don't even run a mile on the first day, just take a walk around the block and then start building up from there. That same analogy is true of shifts in the diet. So when you hear things like all things in moderation and balance, and you try to do that, you'll hear stories like, well, I tried that. And then, grains don't agree with me. I didn't like them. But I would submit that it's because the mechanisms in the gut have been conditioned for quote unquote powerlifting, eating meat, and you went and tried to run a marathon.
Yes.
If you back it off. So what we've seen a lot in the nutrition health community are these transitions where effectively people are just jumping in whole hog to something new and the body's not trained to do it. I talk about this in the book. I talk about the idea of carb training and that you can actually train carbs in the body, but it's just like that power lifter who's becoming a marathon runner. You've got to start very, very small so that the body can adapt to that new thing and build.
Well, we see this. Anybody who owns a dog knows that you change the dog's food one day and he craps all over the house. And that, but after he eats the food for a week or two, he stops, right? So the body wasn't prepared for you. Sent something down the tube that the body wasn't prepared for it and said, I'm going to get rid of this.
That's the best analogy I've ever heard, actually. I'm going to steal that if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly it. You changed it and the dog is just going to crap. So getting back to what makes sense to do, we have to begin to understand that the diet is not this fixed proposition that we think it is, because it requires mechanisms to process it, and the body has to build those mechanisms up. It has to tear them down. So as we're moving towards more variety in the diet, we have to start slowly. And it doesn't mean that we have to return to the 4 food groups. We can have extremes. I have extremes. I'll have periods where, I'll do an extreme of maybe fats. I'm just coming off a period of meat. But really, I think the key ultimately is really listening to your body, because your body will always tell you. It'll always give you clues. And right now, my body's just starting to crave more salad. I'm starting to crave other things because I've been eating a lot of meat lately. And your body will tell you what to do.
Just shifts off. Yeah, if you pay attention, it will. Elisa eats a very, very broad diet. And she has this thing like, I'll say to her, you want to have a protein bar? She'll say, I already had one today. I'm like, so? Have another one. No, she goes, no, I had one today. And, she's aging so well. Last night, she got 3 hours of deep sleep. I'm so jealous. But she's one of these people that she's just not an extremist in any area, and so it comes back to this sensible, I think the problem is that we've learned as humans that zealotry leads to success. Like if you just grind and focus and you build a great business, or you just grind and focus and you build a great family, but diet doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Like grinding and focusing your diet ends up not working out. And I think we're learning that now, and it's something you said earlier that made me something I've been thinking about. We hearken back to evolution and go, well, we did this back then. That doesn't mean it actually made us live longer. I mean, just because we did it back then doesn't mean it contributed. This whole idea of everything about evolution was right and everything we're learning now is wrong is just, no, we have to pick what works from each of these. That is ultimately the hybrid approach forward from where we are. So these people who say, oh, well, all we ate was meat, big effing deal. That doesn't mean that we lived longer back then. If anything, we didn't live longer. Maybe that was one of the contributors to why we didn't live longer. It's not this, because it was back then, it was right.
Yeah, I would add to that I would add to that I think it's time to shift into machine-based forensics. So instead of relying on narratives to tell us what to do, we need to look at the machinery and go, well, what does this need? Like if you're looking at an electric engine and you're trying to give it gasoline, it's probably not going to work very well, because mechanistically it needs power input. And the same is true in reverse. So as you begin to break down what's true about the body mechanistically, and we look at the cells that line the enterocytes, the upper part of the gut, and those specific types of cells, what do they mechanistically need? And then you begin to look at the villi, and we look at the villi, and then there's, well, lo and behold, there's not just the villi, there's other groups of cells, like specifically M cells. And M cells really rely a lot on aminos in order to produce the proper ratio of different sort of things that they need to drive immunity in the gut. And then you begin to look at the colon. You go, well, what's the colon need? And you begin to go, oh, no, the colonocytes really need fiber. That's kind of where you're going to get the ideal mix. So if you begin to break things down mechanistically, the mechanisms will tell us what to do far better than narratives will, because the narratives you can't validate. They sound good. Right. They might be true. We don't know.
Well, and the narratives typically are founded in bias. Or right. What's that? When you want something to work out the way you want it to work, confirmational bias, or a product being sold. I know that's the problem. Finding the truth amidst all the bias-driven nonsense has become even harder thanks to the internet now. Because now today you got a million different opinions coming at you today. How do you sort through them?
Yeah, I think also that's where immunology and sort of an immune-centric focus really changes things, because once you realize that immunity and the immune mechanisms are central to the mechanistic working of everything. Yeah. You look. I mentioned M cells. You look at them. Why is that important? Because essentially, what M cells do is they will go into the lumen in the gut. They'll grab an antigen. They'll pull it into the gut. They'll give it to dendritic cells. They'll shield it within a dendritic cell. The dendritic cell will bake that antigen up. It'll take it over to a T cell. Present it to a T cell, and then the T cell will push it back out, and then you're going to get secretory IgA in the gut from that. And in order to make that happen, you need glutamine. You need amino acids. So amino acids in that mechanistic chain make that work. The amino acids take the bacteria in the gut and they push them into the gut mucus layer out of the lumen. And so when that happens, the antigen sensing works a hell of a lot better. And so again, mechanistically speaking, if we just break this thing down, we go, oh, we got to have glutamine. Where's the best source of glutamine? Meat. Okay, so we kind of need meat. But then you move down the colon tract, you move into the colon, and you begin to look at the enterocytes there to go, well, what do they need? They need butyrate. What's the best source of that? And then you begin to work the mechanisms out, and you go, we can't have too much meat here because it's going to alkylate the colon. What's that leave us with? It leaves us with fiber. So getting back to how things actually work by breaking the mechanisms down, that's the future. Because we've been in this sort of like wishy-washy kind of narrative stuff, and a lot of people have really benefited from that, and it's just based on complete BS, most of it. So.
Yeah. This has been a great discussion, and obviously seeds have been planted for at least 11 other interviews so far. So the book is called Immunity Code. You can find it at veepnutrition.com. There's also some free information there. There's some tidbits of audio tracks that Joel has put together to kind of prime you and give you some information to walk away with today. You should check out Veep Nutrition, VEEP nutrition.com, and definitely get the book because with Joel, I'm listening to Joel and I'm thinking about Dr. Scott Connolly back in the day. Dr. Scott Connolly brought so much wonderful information to physical culture, bodybuilding, and nutrition. And he was fascinating because he understood these complex ideas and he was able to serve them up in ways that people weren't afraid that they wouldn't get it. And Joel, I feel like you're the next generation Scott Connolly. I got to be honest. I'm I don't know if you think that's a compliment or not.
But no, that's interesting. My Scott story is in 1992. He had a gym in Costa Mesa, the Metrex gym, and he was working the front desk. like Dr. Scott, the front desk. And I was kind of like I was just trying to learn as much as I could in those days. And I walked up and I asked him about glutamine. And then it was kind of like one of those commercials where you literally dropped out when you said I was trying to learn as much as I could in those days, and then you froze. So pick it up from. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was trying to learn as much as I could in those days, and Dr. Scott was working the front desk, and I made the mistake of asking him about glutamine,
Yeah,
And
that's it.
Like,
yeah, bring your cot. Bring your cot and stay here tonight. Yeah.
He went into this biobabble thing about, 50 conjugate adjectives later, and I was kind of like, okay, yeah. Okay. And,
no, maybe he was a wealth.
Yeah.
He was a wealth of knowledge. He taught so many people so many great things. And
thank you. That's
you got to get the book, Immunity Code. It's at veepnutrition.com. That's it for today. And think about the diet. Think about your diet. Think about what you're eating, and think about playing around with it a little bit in baby steps, and see what the outcome is. Don't believe that all meat all the time is the way to go, because that's currently the new narrative right now. And just like every other nutritional narrative before, it misses the boat. It misses the boat. All right, Joel, thanks for being here today, brother.
Thank you, Carl. Great, always.
All right, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the Blueprint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish. Don't miss that. And please share the show. Please share the show. Please share the show.
Please share the show. Hey, Carl, you still on?